speaker. So this is the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council Public Safety Meeting on Thursday, April 28, 2022. So I want to introduce to everybody, this is Paul Umner. He's our new SLO for Northwest San Pedro area. And then John Garza is the new neighborhood prosecutor, city attorney for the Harbor Highland or the Harbor Police Station area. So do you guys want to say anything for public comment at all? Anybody have public comment, Paul or John?
Well, just happy to be here. A quick background on me. I've been a police officer approximately 13 years, been serving in San Pedro for 10 of those years. The last 3 I've been working out of the community relations office in the quality of life unit, which pretty much we tackled the homeless issue in San Pedro and Wilmington and Harbor City. That gave me so I'm pretty well versed with most LAMC codes in regards to homeless issues and other quality of life issues is that. And now this is my first month as acting senior lead for Northwest San Pedro. Happy to be here. Awesome.
And by the way, I'm Melanie. We haven't met yet in person. This is Kelly. Whoops. This is Kelly, and she's part of our public safety, and she's on the Northwest Neighborhood Council. And then John Barbera. Sorry I didn't make your coffee with the cop last night or yesterday. I had a medical emergency for my mother.
Oh, well, I hope everything's okay.
I had to take her to the cardiologist. So there's something wrong with her heart, and they aren't quite sure what's going on with her. So it could be age related, possibly, because it's like you get dizzy, you fall down, then your blood pressure sinks down to practically nothing. And
Wow.
So I'm sorry I missed it. So that being said, we'll move on with the meeting. The town hall, I think you guys, because from what I'm hearing from the city attorney, Octaviano wants us to wait on it because they're having some other protocols that are being put in place to do like town halls, even though it's on Zoom, because we're doing this about another city department, that they don't want us to be pointing fingers at another city department from another city department type thing. And so they want it to be pretty ironed out and show them like the draft of what we're going to do and who's going to be there as well. See, Paul, what we were going to do as a town hall about rec and parks in general in San Pedro, because there's a lot of problems with upkeep, maintenance, oversight. You know, the conversation we had about the doors. They put a bathroom in our park, and then now they're saying, oh, there's no money to fix the locks that stay open all the time. So we have a drug den that everybody's going in and out of over there at Harbor Highlands Park. That door is still busted, and their answer is, oh, we have to come up with an alternative to those locks. Well, here we are 6 months later, and the alternative is just to leave them unlocked. And
and that actually, I'll interject and say that actually leads to some issues. From my perspective, I was actually addressing the issue at Harbor Highlands Park about 2 weeks ago. Went there early in the morning. Bathroom doors were unlocked and they were occupied by some homeless individuals using meth.
As a shelter.
Right. And I explained that the park is closed from sunset to sunrise. And they're pretty much their explanation of being there was, well, the fact that the signage wasn't properly posted on every entry point led them to believe that it was open, and on top of that, the unlocked bathroom led him to believe that it was open. So that's just something that when it comes to arresting someone and charging them with,
you can't do anything.
Yeah, I said, you know, ultimately I warned him for the trespass and just arrested him for the possession of meth and paraphernalia.
Oh, you did arrest them.
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, just have to find something else because the signage, uh, see, and it's not just our park. Averill Park is the same way. And it has nobody looking after it. It has no authority over it. It has no park rangers like our park. There are smaller parks in central San Pedro that are the same way. Anderson
Mhm.
Park is the same way. So is the little park down by the port and stuff. They're the same way. And there's no oversight, there's no nothing. And so our thought process was, in light of all of these problems, you know, oversight, our park is a free for all for jumpers. They're starting fires at night over there. John can attest to it. There was a fire, I told you about that, where LAPD came and told them they cannot have an open fire in the park. They said, oh, it's a birthday party, please let us stay. They let them stay and continue to have the fire and told them they will trust them that they will put it out. They dumped the coals on the street and left to burn all night on the street underneath a big tree.
So potentially a fire hazard, of course.
It's a fire
Yeah.
hazard, and that's the way that it was left. That is not okay. It's a, you know, there's homes. This is a very congested area around the park where there are homes all around the park.
Mhm.
It's a little strip park, as you've seen, and there are homes all around it. They put all those homes in danger every time they do that. Also, on this side of Capitol, I went out and made a homeless person put out a fire that they built in the grass. They put charcoal in the grass and lighter fluid and made a fire to cook steaks that they had stolen from Target.
Hmm.
And they were cooking it. And I went over there and told them they needed to put it out now. The people next to them said, dude, you can't light a fire on the ground. They're right under the tree. There's a Pedro gas station right next door
Right. Yeah.
to the park, and they're right by that. And I'm like, oh, for the love of God, there's going to be a fire, and it's going to be all over, and my house is going to go boom across the street. And
Mhm.
so they argued with me about it, and finally this guy got up, this large gentleman that was beefy, thank God, because I'm not big. I'm 5'6.5", and you know, I could get blown over, you know, in a windstorm. And I was telling them they had to put it out, and the guy told me basically, I'm going to beat the ever loving, you know what, out of you, you know, and they threatened me. And then the guy over there got up and he says, dude, you need to put this fire out. And if you aren't going to, we're going to. And he took this big thing of water and just doused it on the fire, on their
Mhm.
fire. Well, they were mad. And so I was afraid to go home. I didn't want them to see where I live because I was right across the street. So I walked the whole perimeter all the way down to Amelia, or down to Amelia where it cuts into Bloomwood. I
Okay.
walked
Yeah.
all the way down there and then to Bloomwood and up around and around to come back. I didn't want them to see where I lived because they
Mhm.
were pissed.
I'm. Do you do you call and do you call our non-emergency line every
Oh,
time that
all the time,
happens?
all the
Okay.
time. And a lot of times they do not come, or it's a
Okay.
low priority.
Okay. I'll try to address that on my side when I work.
And that's the complaint I've gotten from the neighborhood watch
Right.
too. They call and it's a low priority. We had somebody call, and that was the other thing. We had somebody call here recently, and I don't know if you've gotten the emails, and I've got more information that I need to email you. The guy that's been trying to break into cars over here and in other neighborhoods,
I've
somebody
noticed the
found
reports.
him and they waited 2 hours for LAPD to come. They found his car, they found him, and
Hmm.
LAPD did not come, and he tried to follow, which is wrong. He followed the car all the way into Torrance to some storage unit.
Okay. I actually met the guy who did that yesterday at Coffee with the cop. There's also an occurrence in the sheriff's area, so
Right.
we're trying to connect the dots and share information with their detectives as
I've
well.
got a bunch of pictures and video.
Yeah.
If you, and I plan on sending those to you. And
Perfect.
it's just, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So, you know, but those are the instances that are coming up where I think what's coming down to it is the feedback that I'm getting is there's some disconnect at the dispatch versus what they're sending out, that I think the dispatch is making determinations before it's sent to um the person that's in charge of sending cars out, the sergeant in charge, I
I'd like
guess,
to,
whoever's in charge of sending out, making decisions for the patrols where they go. I think dispatch is making those decisions, which they shouldn't be. Dispatch should be just taking the calls and not making any decisions about those calls, whether it's a 1, 2, or 3. They should
Mhm.
be, give the information, make the call, and then it should, then the officers just need to respond. I mean,
Right.
it-
Well, I'll tell you this,
know,
that any city's facility is a priority 2 call.
right,
So it's code 2. It surpasses, uh, I'd say like someone drinking in an alley, someone yelling and screaming, a 415 man on the street, someone just walking down the street, suspicious looking, or who looks intoxicated. So there's priority 1, 2, and 3. Priority 3 is obviously an emergency. So this is a priority call. So I agree there must be some sort of disconnect in which perhaps the operator isn't trained well enough to know that park area is a city park and it should be
right.
prioritized. Yeah.
And the other thing is that when they come out, one of the things that I've gotten frustrated with, and even Dan was like frustrated, and it's an ongoing thing. They come out and they don't physically check. Like if somebody's setting up camp in the park,
Mm-hmm.
like I had a call, it was probably about 2, 3 weeks ago. Somebody was in the park and they drove by. They just drove by and they physically didn't see anything when they drove by, rather than getting out, going in and looking at the playground and seeing them set up there. They just
Mm-hmm.
drove by. That's it. And they were done. They had my phone number. They could have called me. I always leave my phone number. I have no
Right.
problem doing that, and my name. And nothing. I watched them on my cameras drive right by.
Well, that's unsatisfactory to say the least. So from the park ranger point of view, there's not a lot of staffing at the moment for
Right,
park rangers. They're
right.
trying to increase that. I'm not sure if you know about Security Services
I
Division.
do. And
You
he
do?
is,
Okay.
we've talked before, him and I, way back. And basically he told me that he's one person and he handles like some odd number of 40 some parks. And so
Right. It
can't
is a
be
lot. Yeah.
everywhere. So it's, unfortunately, this is low priority for him, this park.
Right. Well, it is a distance, but I don't think that should rule out the priority. It is the furthest part of LA from where they're
Where
dispatched.
he's at.
They come from downtown. So
Right,
he
exactly.
is actually leaving. He is leaving that position to go to a transfer to another area. There's going to be a newer. I've met him. I'll pass his information along to you later on. He's going to
Okay,
be a new slow for the Security Services Division, who seems a little more young and full of energy, I'll say.
right.
So
See,
hopefully that
the reason for
that
this town hall was I'm concerned about summer.
right. Yep.
I'm really about summer because in the past, they've had a permit person that come out and check permits and allowed no more than a couple of permits at the
Mhm.
park, you know, of a jumper. And it's gotten so willy-nilly now that they aren't checking permits anymore. They don't have a permit person and they aren't checking them. So anybody that wants to comes and sets up. Like this last weekend, we had 4 jumpers in that park and 4 big parties. They overtook the whole neighborhood. I mean, all of the parking, all the street parking, they were on the wrong side of the street by our house where it's red and it says no parking. On my side of the street, It's no parking. It's a red zone all the way across there. And they were on Capitol on that side of the street parked.
Okay.
They were all up Capitol. They were all over Berrywood. They were all on the other side of Gatun. They were parked in the red zone over there until late. There's a lot of complaints about that.
So from my experience, there has been issues with locating the I guess you can call him the contact person, the person responsible for setting up and orchestrating the entire jumper park event, wedding reception.
It's some
Well,
rental company. It's a couple of them.
right, but whoever's in charge of throwing that birthday party, I've responded to calls before in the past, not only at parks, but at homes, at parks, at the beach, and nobody will claim responsibility of being the host. So that leaves me scratching my head, so to speak. Well, who do I actually cite? What can I do in this situation if nobody's claiming responsibility? And I'm wondering, Jonathan, in that situation, when we have such a large group of people, what can an officer do to actually issue a citation if nobody's claiming responsibility for setting it up?
You know, that's not an issue I've ever dealt with before. That's something that's a park and recs issue. I know in the past, in the community I live in, you have to have a permit that goes through the proper city channels to the city, and usually the city, the Parks and Recs, is the one that enforces that.
Right. And they have nobody enforcing it here. It's just like either you do or you don't. And if you don't, oh, well, we aren't going to enforce it. There's nobody coming out and checking and saying, you know, there's only 2 parties allowed in the park, you know, every weekend, and there can't be 5. So the other 5 need to shut down. There's only 2 jumpers allowed on the weekends in that park. And so now the other 2 need to shut down. You know, you don't have a permit, you have to shut it down. That's what they did before. Now there's nothing. And so we're really concerned about this summer is going to be a free for all in that park.
Is there staff that staffs that park, or are there?
No. Me. No. I walk that park and every night and I check it to make sure the bathrooms are locked, that there's no vagrants in the park and all of that. My husband and I do. I go for my nightly walk, and I've been finding the bathrooms have been unlocked for the last 6 months now. And we'll see vagrants in there and we can't do anything. It's him and I'll see them in that bathroom and see the lights on in there, and you can hear them sometimes. Sometimes they're having sex in there and you can hear that. We noticed at one point they were using it for some sort of like servicing people for stuff in there. Some hookers were and stuff because the bathrooms are unlocked.
Well, when we're done here, I at the least, I'm just going to go ahead. I have my phone in front of me and create a service request. I'm sure you have, but the more the better. The more the better. That's at this point. I mean, I can't fix the lock, so I'm just going to keep bugging them until, you know, the squeakiest wheel gets
right. And my email
oil,
is one straight to the head of maintenance for Rec and Parks for LA City. And
you're documenting this, right? You're taking pictures of it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Like
I've got tons of pictures. I've got a big file. It's like, this is crazy. I'm so like overwhelmed because I thought I had a good relationship with Deanne Dedman over at the PV North regional site. And in the past, she's been really good. But since she's come back and taken over the big boss duties of the regional rep and not just the lower level one, she all of a sudden, it's just very like, we need to find another alternative, and then boom, no further communication.
You know, one of the things, like on the weekends, you know, I'll go by there all the time because I live right up Gatun. I dead end on Gatun.
Okay.
So I'm right there. So when I go down Gatun, I either make a left on Milet or go Capitol, or I just go straight to Gaffey. Now, a lot of times I'll come, and I brought this up on the board too, because I'm also on the neighborhood council. And, we talked about it where, not only do they have the bouncers and stuff, they'll have a bouncer, but then they've got like these big, huge 40-foot by 30-foot tents. So you're taking, once you line that up, that's taken up quite a bit of the park, right? You see them out there.
2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, and they'll be doing that. Like last weekend, when it was kind of nice and warm, there was one setup on Gatun that started by, where the entrance is, and it got the yellow post, the 3 yellow posts on Gatun, and you go in there and you go left to the basketball, right to the, So you right there about, I don't know, maybe if you went 20 feet, you'll see a bouncer is there. Then they added some space. There was a barbecue that they had, a pretty good sized barbecue that they brought. And then another 40 feet of this tent and all of that. And then across the way where the swings and the slides are, there's another tent and another setup.
That's huge.
That it's not these little guys, it's these big families that come there.
And then in the middle, there was another great big, huge, like 30-40 foot tent that was
which came
and so almost the whole park was put up for these 3 parties that were taking up so much. And then you had a couple of little parties. So what happens is, then this is a neighborhood pocket park. This is built for the neighborhood. The neighborhood paid for this park.
And it's nice.
The neighborhood.
It is a nice park, but then when they overloaded with other people.
Bought the land, and we had a bond on our houses to pay for that bond, and then donated it to the city for the park to keep it from turning into oil drilling type stuff.
Right.
So technically, even though we donated, the community paid a lot of money in their taxes for this bond that we took. So we, in a sense, have a voice in this, the way that park is run. And even though we donated it, that we should be heard. And that was the concern with the bathrooms that was brought up. And so the thing is that by all these parties there, the feeling is from the whole community is that we can't use the park because it's being overrun by outsiders coming in for these parties. We've asked, some of these people coming are from Wilmington, they're from Carson. Why do they need to come from Carson to do a party? They're from Rancho PV or Rancho, the lowers, from the gang area, the low income housing down there. They're coming up here for parties and stuff because there's no rules here.
Yeah, there's nobody to man it. There's nobody to tell them that they can't do it.
But
so the families that want to go out there.
I'll have to set up a day. I mean, me working alone is only going to fix one issue at one time. But if this is something ongoing, I'm going to have to get some sort of request some sort of a task force to go out there and a few days a week. During the summertime when it's busy,
on the weekend especially,
and just send a message out there. Maybe we can get some signage up if it's not posted. I can't recall that permits are needed. I can reach out to CP15.
There is signs that say this is a permit only park. There's one on the fence that's on Gatun that says it. There really needs to be a bigger sign on the Capitol side, and I've said this before to them.
The revenue,
but it's a little tiny one.
The revenue from the permits for this park would more than pay for the bathroom doors.
Exactly.
That would be the solution that they would need to fix the bathroom doors. If they made them pay for their permits, then they could pay for the bathroom doors. Since they told us that we had to find a different solution for fixing the bathroom doors.
Too expensive to fix the doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul, you made a great point. I think we need to bring in CD15 and bring in the council on this. It sounds like, this is something that signage is probably gonna be needed, some additional resources. definitely get the locks fixed and get some kind of signage on there. I mean, I've never been to this park. I'm not familiar with the area yet, but it sounds like there needs to be some kind of, if there's no one manning it, at least some kind of signage or rules that either prohibit or explain what the rules of the park.
Right. And if you
Right.
saw it, you would see it's not a big park, it's small. And so when you get that many parties in it, there's no room for anybody else to use the park. That's-
And all we want to do is
Mhm.
control it. We just like to have a little control on it because you know how there's the families with, you got your 2 kids and, a ball, the dog might be with you, you lay a blanket out and nobody does that anymore. After we haven't seen the rangers do anything or help us out. You don't see the mom and pop come over there and, put a blanket down and they start doing that. They might have a lunch and this and that, what they do, play on the
kids
swings with
walking
the
to the
kids.
park.
They used to, a lot of them would walk to the park. And now when people, I've seen people, honest to God, and I wish I should have filmed it. I've seen people come out of their car with their kids. They got their bikes in the truck and they look and then they look and they go, okay, it's packed. And they
Mhm.
load back up in the car and they leave.
Or there's been instances where people set up right by where the playground equipment is by the Capitol side there.
Right.
They'll
Yeah.
set almost right on top of it and set up a big tent and all their
Yeah.
stuff right there so the kids can go play. And
Mhm.
they'll have instances where kids, and I've had this, somebody came to my door, knocking on my door that lives in the neighborhood saying, I just want to let you know this just happened. We were at the park and my kids were playing on the play equipment. And they told my kids that they were having a birthday party for their kid, and we couldn't be there playing because they had the park for the day for their birthday party.
Hmm.
And they told us to leave.
Yeah, unacceptable.
Yeah, that's come up on a few issues like that. We've heard it through, Dan Dixon and I, who were also on the issues committee. Some people had brought that is right there on his end because Dan lives halfway down Cabrillo Street. And yeah, even Dan doesn't like to go there with his grandson. My 2 granddaughters come on the weekend and they always stay and they always go, well, we're going to go down to the end. Oh, well, let's go to the park. And it says, well, let's not, we'll go someplace else, because it's crowded.
Mhm.
It just, it just, sometimes it feels unsafe. I'm not worried about us or me, but there's other people there. And that's,
And I will say that sometimes there are some unsafe looking savory people that are in that park that are having a party. We've had big groups of like gang member looking people that have been over there having parties. And they were the ones doing the fire one night over there.
Okay.
They were very, they looked like they were probably from the projects or Wilmington, maybe gangs
Mhm.
over there. They had a lot
Okay.
of colors and the tats and all of that, the face tats.
Okay, I'll go ahead and, is this something that's also ongoing or is this just like a isolated incident where there's people you describe as possible neighbors or?
Well, there've been, I mean,
Yeah,
I've seen a few there, where, how when they got the neck all tattooed and stuff on
Right.
the side, but you see them, you will see them. You could see them probably once or twice a month.
we had a
Oh,
group
okay.
of us one day that went in the park to try and tell them because they had just replanted the seed in the park on the grass.
Right.
And they had a clown car inside on the grass doing wheelies and spinning around and stuff. It literally one of those little clown cars with a clown. And
Mhm.
so a bunch of us went over there and told them that they couldn't have the clown car on the grass. And this big, like Hispanic, burly, like tatted guy come up to me and he goes, "What are you going to do about it?" And I go, "You know what? I'm just going to call the police. I'm going to take pictures right now. And I'm not going to fight with you, but I'm going to tell you what, it's going to get reported. I'm taking pictures of your license plate and of this car and of the individual being the clown. And it's going to get
Mhm.
reported. And you're going to get reported for threatening me. And that's the end of it."
Mhm.
And then they were cussing all the way. And then finally they got the clown car off the grass and he departed. But, you know, and then it was a big all mouthy and everything else and all of that. And I'm like, whatever. And, you know, but I made sure I had like 4 other people with me and I wasn't alone.
Okay. Yeah, that's
But I did
unacceptable.
file it. This was a while ago when Dan was still SLO and I
Mhm.
filed it still. And they
Okay.
looked into it, you know, Rec and Park did something with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you don't mind, whenever you have free time after this, send me all those incidents. If you have them documented, I'd just
Yeah.
like to review them.
Okay.
I noticed that you wanted to talk about
Okay,
illegal
yeah,
vending as
so-
well, or?
Discussion. So the next thing is the vendor thing. Supposedly what they said at CPAB is you're doing the next task force on the vendor.
Well, so I'm not the lead, but we reached out to the county, LA County. They are going to be sending out a task force, I believe, on the 13th of May, Friday the 13th.
Okay.
And I'm not sure yet what their plan is, but they are going to have a task force come down here and start investigating and citing illegal vending.
Yeah, because the best time for them to do it generally is going to be the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we've been having a lot of problems where they show up. Over Amelia and Capitol is one.
Okay.
Just past Myler on the right-hand side, that's where they set up.
Yeah,
There's
they're on the
another
corner there.
Then
They
over
were there
on,
yesterday and they were there today too.
over on, oh Lord, Westmont and Taper, or Westmont and Amelia, that area. There's been one there, and the guy, the stakeholder that keeps emailing everybody,
Mm-hmm.
you know him, Dan.
Yes, yes.
That's where one that he keeps complaining about. Also, we've had an incident where this Easy Up takes over the whole sidewalk. And he either goes at the corner of Capitol and Gaffey, right on the corner where Target is, right there on that corner across from 7-Eleven, and takes over the whole sidewalk in the evening and sets up a big taco stand and says we're open. It takes over it. Oh wow, it's long, probably about 3 foot worth of long, and takes up the whole sidewalk and stuff. I've got pictures of it. But
So
then,
this is where we're getting into 4118, right?
right,
When they're- yeah.
exactly. And then
Okay.
he takes up the whole sidewalk in front of DMV. He was there all this last weekend over there. And I tried to get pictures of it, but I went to my daughter's Sunday for dinner. And as I left, I'm like, wait, he's there again in front of DMV, and he's got the whole sidewalk. And and takes up about 3 feet with cooking tacos and everything. He's got people there helping him and everything. It's huge. But the whole sidewalk is blocked.
Okay.
Paul, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know if you go, I belong to the Italian Sons and Daughters of Italy. It's on Carson, and usually I come down Western when I come back home. And it's always on like on a Wednesday, second Wednesday of every month, you know, and around 7:30, 7:45 when we leave. And my wife and I are coming down. These people that have the tents up and start, you know, they're cooking stuff. You see them barbecuing. And I mean, they got like 2, 3 barbecues. They might have a flat grill plate, and they're doing the kind of, you see them chopping it up. That's how this guy is over there on Western and just right past Carson Street, about a half a mile down Carson, with his open lots. And or by the bowling alley, you know, they'll set a corner. But do these guys have permits for these things, or they get permits to let them cook in the street?
Some do, some do. So it's hit or miss. There's someone selling flags off of 25th and Western. They had a little setup with T-shirts and flags and paraphernalia, like political stuff. And we checked, and she did in fact have a permit. And she was in compliant. She was ADA compliant for the sidewalk. So it just takes an officer to systematically go down and check each permit.
Right.
But
so-
again,
Yeah.
we don't, the city, from what I've gathered, the city doesn't really want police officers to spearhead that. They want it to come from a public health standpoint. So they want like the county health department to come out and see if they have the permits, not from a law enforcement side.
Well,
Right.
like you've seen,
Go ahead.
like you've seen what Dan Lowther's written about, how is the food clean? I mean, how do they wash this? And yeah,
Right.
I mean, if it was anybody, I would say the same thing, even though a lot of people stop and get the stuff, and I don't doubt it's not good, but how are you keeping everything at the right temperature and this, and
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it's certain, we're trying to not look for another pandemic to hit for
My biggest
food,
concern
but and
with
it's
a lot of these is the permitting process with the food vendors, because you don't see any type of glove wearing or any of that on these fruit vendors that are over on Taper and Amelia, or Capitol and Amelia, or the guy over on Westmont and Taper area, that area. Those two fruit vendors places, no gloves, no sanitation, no wash station, no nothing on them. They're selling bag fruit and then these freezer type things with fruit all in it, and they're packing it. No
Right.
gloves, no nothing. So that's my biggest concern right there.
Yeah.
And then these taco things that are showing up, taking over, and that's where we jump into 4118 real quick.
Right.
Is they are blocking the sidewalk where I am myself, the one over on Capitol and Gaffey, had, when my husband and I went for a walk at night, had to go in the street because we couldn't use the sidewalk because it was blocked by them. They are not allowing the sidewalk to be accessible. So 4118, I wanted you to explain to everybody what that is.
So I'll go ahead and we just received this in our email today. It was what we call a cheat sheet. So we could figure out how to address this. Let's see. So here we go, 4118 reference guide. So this has to do with private property and individuals with their own private property or themselves, their person. Pretty much being next to it, it has to do with the distance, the location in which they're setting up, for example, like a homeless encampment or their own personal property near entrance and exit points of private businesses and driveways as well. So the reference guys, I'll just cover it really quick. There's 4118 subsections is A1, A2, A3, A4. Pretty much it's effective immediately until further notice. We may enforce it, but we're still working out how to actually tackle the issue and how we're going to affect a filing for that. So pretty much no person shall obstruct or unreasonably interfere with the minimum clearance of a continuous 3-foot wide pathway as required under the American with Disabilities Act. So that's the one what we have used when, like I said earlier, someone is selfishly taking up an entire sidewalk and more out into the street. For example, like a homeless encampment with their easy up, with the tent, bulky items in the way, and somebody actually has to walk around them into the street to get around. So what they want from us is to give them a warning in a sufficient amount of time. What I myself personally is pretty much like 15 minutes or so to gather their stuff and clear a path. They want a warning at first. They want us to educate them. So this is a new revamped LAMC code. So for example, if that person you're talking about is taking up the entire sidewalk, I'd go out there, ask him to make a pathway to first and warn him. If he refuses, then he'd be subject to citation.
Okay.
If you want to jump in, Jonathan, on the actual filing side of that and what is required, I think that would help benefit all of us here today.
See, also, one of the concerns from a couple of stakeholders that were at CPAB where 4118 was talked about, one of the couple of the emails that I've gotten concern was that a lot of the signs are going up like a gulch area and around the bridge home and the shelter, and then a couple of school areas. But this area has Taper Elementary, it has Park Western Elementary, it has this park. And we thought parks and schools were all supposed to be included. This area hasn't been included in any of the signing at all for signs to go up, to be designated. So what's going to happen is this area is going to have all the homeless pushed up in this area because there's no signage up here.
Well, they still
Like
have to
all around
set-
the green, along the green belt on Gaffey, that's a park. That's considered a park. It should have the 4118 sign up there.
I could reach out to CD15. They're in charge of all the zoning and the
This
signage.
park, Taper, the Harbor Highlands Park should have a sign for 4118. Taper Elementary area should have 4118. So should Park Western Elementary.
So when I requested signage for an area in Wilmington for those 4118 zones, the ABH zones, I should say, CD15 responded saying that they need, if law enforcement wants to initiate a new zone, they are going to have to bring forth all of documented incidents and calls for service, including crime reports that have occurred in that area. So for
Well,
example,
there would be a lot for the green belt. There'd be a
right,
lot. They
exactly.
started fires up there in the railroad tracks and all of that.
I've witnessed those fires. Yeah, I'm talking about Highlands Park.
There's been a lot of incidences there too.
Right, since you've documented that, if you wouldn't mind sending me that stuff, I could go ahead and forward it over to CD15 and see what they'll do.
That would be great if they could do that, you know, because that's the biggest fear is that it's 48118 in many ways is a solution to some of our problems. But the concern is, and I agree with it 100%, is that it's going to turn into a whack-a-mole situation where you're going to push them from areas that are designated into residential neighborhoods, like up into below Gaffey and 13th, that area all in where residents live, along where their back alleys are and everything, as well as push them up in Northwest. We haven't had a problem, but we've seen a huge increase in homeless population in this area since the signs have started to go up.
So if I can jump in.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna ask you a question, but I'll wait.
So if I can jump in, I actually, you know, I think 4118 is more, it's an additional tool in the belt of law enforcement for them to actually, you know, take people off the streets who are blocking the sidewalks. And, you know, this is in addition to what the trespass sections already have.
Right.
So some of the other tools that they have to enforce these individuals that are blocking the sidewalks. And like Paul said, you know, this section is made up of 3 sections. The first section prohibits blocking the sidewalk. And like Paul said, it's you know, it's a 36-inch or 3 foot, basically they have to leave 36 inches. The second section is about blocking the street. So there's no blocking streets, no blocking the right of way, no blocking bike lanes. And then the third section and I think Melanie, you mentioned this, it's called the sensitive sites. And that has to do with schools. It has to do with, I think it's overpass. There's public parks and libraries. So all it does is that it's an opportunity for officers to kind of clear the streets and to kind of get people that are camping or that are blocking access ways. So, Paul, you mentioned, some of the evidentiary things or what we're looking for from our office when in terms of enforcing this. You mentioned that you guys are supposed to, connect with these people and warn them, and that's something that we want to see. We definitely want to see that, because in the end, in order for us to file a misdemeanor case, there has to be willful resisting or delay or obstruction of these individuals with city employees. So at LAPD. So if you're making contact with these individuals, they're refusing to leave. We definitely want to see documentation. We definitely want to see pictures. We definitely want to see the body worn video where you're actually warning these people. And like I mentioned earlier, that the more documentation we have, the better. But
Okay.
yeah, like I said, this is just another tool to use against individuals that are kind of camping out, that are blocking the roadways. And this is in addition to the trespass sections we already have. It's in addition to 4124, the 602, the trespass sections, as well as the 602s and 555s. So this is another tool in the belt to the officers for them to make the street safer.
Now, on my part, is there a difference with facilitating an arrest or a citation inside of one of those zoned areas as opposed to outside one of those zoned areas, just on, say, a random residential street?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Is there a difference with I'll rephrase it. Is there a difference between a law enforcement's approach towards an individual violating 4118 in an area, a sensitive area, as opposed to a non 4118 zone? Or is that a blanket? Is 4118 blanket across all of city of LA?
This is, I've yet to file a case related to 4118. I literally, this is my first week on the job, and I've only filed trespass sections and a few like 602 sections. But the way I read 4118 is essentially, you have the sidewalks, you have the streets, and you have the sensitive sites that are being blocked. So I think that depending on whether it's a public versus private, whether it's a sensitive site, or it's just a public roadway, I think it's going to differ on how we file a case, if there's enough of the evidence or enough of the enforcement guidelines we're looking for. But it's just gonna vary whether it's public versus private, whether it's depending on the section. I think that someone who's in violation of subsection A, which is blocking a sidewalk, can also potentially be subject to the 4118 subsection C, which is a sensitive site. So that's potentially another charge against them. So it just varies on a case by case basis.
Now, John, now okay, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Some of the stuff that I read that Councilman Boschiano has posted, as well as what was said at CSPAB, I was under the impression the special zoned areas that have like the sign up for 2 weeks, that those special zone areas, the 4118, they can't be there at all in those zoned areas in 500 feet or 1,000 feet of it, of where that sign is in that zoned area, was my understanding. Do I have that wrong for the special zoned area, where the signs are?
Like I said, this isn't the first time I'm dealing with this issue. I've never filed a case, and I know that there's sensitive sites, and signage is also an important part of.
Right. There's something about they have to be there 14 days. And then once they've been seen for 14 days, then they can't be in that area at all within 500 or 1,000 feet of that sign, is what I was told.
If I'm correct, I think it has to do with subsection C, which is a sensitive sites. And just because we can't file a sensitive site, that subsection C, I think we still file under the subsection A if they're blocking the street, or if they're blocking subsection
I was
B.
just thinking like for the park and the the schools.
Yeah, for parks and schools, I think that may be a different subsection. That may be the trespass, or even I think there's a 602M, which is entering and occupying. That's usually what's used for individuals that are in homeless encampments that are refusing to leave. So there's a few subsections that are specific.
Okay.
Even has subsections that have to do with public utilities. There's a subsection that do with railroads. There's trespassing on industrial property. That's Penal Code 555. And that's where we file for individuals that are on railroad tracks or parks or dams and like oil refineries. So, there's, the Penal Code is very specific and has a lot of different subsections to it. But this is just another one that's used, that's specific to streets and public right-of-ways that are being blocked by individuals.
Right.
And I think it's like Jonathan said earlier, just to have something filed. What I've done in the past is to, again, take pictures, give warnings. So that looks better when it does get filed, showing that law enforcement did give that person a break a few times, and they're just not adhering to it. They're not complying to it.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul.
So-
Just to highlight what you asked about, what we're looking for. From our guidelines, it's about the willful resistance. We want to see the obstruction where they're being actually requested by you guys, and you're asking, hey, you're in violation, you need to leave, and we're going to come in and file the case when there's that they're refusing, there's prior contacts, you have body worn video, and you have prior contacts with them where you're basically saying, hey, this is the fourth time we've asked you, right. And obviously your officers are then documenting on this day we talked to this individual, on this day we talked to him, this is the third time we're citing him, he's been asked repeatedly, here's pictures of his taco stand or his homeless encampment. This is, you want to build that case with documentation. So yeah, for us, it's all about that willful resistance and obstruction after a city employer or LEP officer tells them to leave.
Okay.
Perfect.
Kelly?
I needed some clarification. So for me, we're talking about two different things, right? We're talking about someone who's blocking the sidewalk to sell tacos versus someone who's encamping or forming an encampment on a sidewalk.
Yeah, and all of it falls under 4118 blocking.
No, it's the same thing. I think it's that both the section can be used for both individual, for that same individual. If it's encampment that's blocking a sidewalk, a person has bikes or personal property or a tent that's completely blocking the street, that person's gonna be a violation. Right. The guy who's selling the tacos where the street's completely blocked off, there's not 36 inches. And so he's in violation of the 4118 subsection A, where he's blocking a sidewalk. So it's a section that could be used in both cases.
Okay, because they typically, close it and go on, and they're not there on a 24/7 basis kind of thing. I could see where, are they being given permits to be able to do this? Are they being able to have permits from the health department? Because I know they're all over the place now, and I know that different areas have been trying to to get rid of them. I'm just wondering if are they being given permits? I know the fruit stands. I know a man who's worked his whole life to get that little card thing to be able to have his fruit stand. I don't want to take that away from him if he has the right to do what he's supposed to do. He's trying to make a living. He's not camping out on the street and blocking the sidewalks like that. So I'm just kind of wondering where the clarifications are and how they're being made and how they're being differentiated. And thank you guys for explaining all of this and working with us on all of this, because it's become a very between the difference. Well, the difference between the encampments and taco stands, they're to me, they're night and day, honestly.
Well, the taco stand, have you seen the one at the DMV? He takes up the whole sidewalk, and that's the problem. It's not the taco stand itself. It's that nobody can access the sidewalk because he blocks it. And if he has a permit, that's one thing, but the permit does not allow him to block the whole sidewalk from use. He has to
Exactly.
give 36 feet or 3
Right,
feet or
and I-
whatever, 36 inches of the sidewalk to people to pass by.
Right,
And-
and I think that if that could be, you know, rectified where he can have a smaller table or have a different thing and have the permits, that would be a whole different ballgame. I don't want to kill anybody's livelihood. I'm sorry, if you're busting your butt to make money and do it, just do it where it's safe and legal, you know?
Exactly.
And-
That's basically what my feeling is to ask for. Other people want them gone. I want them to be safe and legal. I don't have a problem with it if they aren't, as long as they aren't on my lawn. At my
Yeah.
house, you know, and blocking my house and stuff. If they're in a general,
I
my
mean,
feeling
I
is
could,
if they're legal and they're in an area that's like a public area and not at anybody's home or blocking anybody's home, then I think it's pretty legal, you know, if they've got the right permits. And that's the thing, they just have to be safe and have the right permits.
Mhm.
the other thing about, I mean, I am the school representative for city council, and I would have an issue with having someone set up food or anything near a school just because without proper permits or anything, because I wouldn't feel that it was safe for our children to buy something without adult supervision buying it because they don't
Exactly.
know what it is. So I can see where that would not be allowed near schools and parks like that, where children are present and could buy things without, you know, their own, because they don't have the discernment or the cognition to know what's safe and what's not.
And that
So
was a concern about the one over on Taper and Westmont. It's right by the school where it's
Right.
set up.
There's one
Okay.
off 7th and Cabrillo as well. They're set up right outside of.
yes, I have
the two
seen them.
schools over there.
I'm up
Yeah.
the street on 7th Street. I have seen
Okay.
them, but don't they have a permit? I think she has a
So-
permit for it.
So the one the guy I ran into yesterday did not have a permit, and that's another issue. Is we asked him if he could just move to another area. Well, they have a truck that drops off quite a few of these to different locations, to different sites. So if we say stop selling, the only way we could, and give him that first warning, the only way we could ensure that is to wait there the entire time with him and watch him not sell to anybody else. And it's frustrating because we can't do that. We just,
Right, there's
more
limited resources.
Exactly. And he's stuck there. He's like, well, I the truck's picking me up in 3 hours. So we trusted him to wait there and not sell. So he's still going to be sitting there. People are still going to think he's vending, and there's still going to be calls for service, whether or not he still is vending.
Right, and that I can understand. I would see asking him to be, because we're not even allowed to sell snacks on the school within so many hours after a served meal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As per the health department. So like we used to have sales after school, like we'd sell snacks for the kids after school. And because it was within so many hours after school gave a lunch or whatever, we weren't allowed to. So, I mean, I understand there's laws and rules, and I can understand where I wouldn't want my child to buy from something that I didn't know was, that wasn't permitted or whatever, and for safety reasons and stuff. But it's just, there's just so many issues right now. I mean, this is like,
Well, it's like with the COVID, when I ran the Candy Cane Lane this year, and everything had to be in cellophane, even the candy canes. I had to buy a box of them that had to come in cellophane, and that was the only way to deal that. And then I wasn't able to do stuff like I did 2 years prior before the COVID, where we had the little pipe cleaners and it turned them into Christmas trees or I taught them how to do that. Now I just got these packets where you peel and stick from Oriental Trading, right? And they're sealed, and that's what you had to do. Right now in the situation we're in, everything has to be sealed.
Yeah.
But
Or
when you see the
handled
guy,
a certain safety way.
yeah. But when you see the guy, he's cutting a mango there on the corner for you, and he's putting it in this, got a few ice cubes. He's,
And no gloves, no nothing.
yeah.
no
And,
mask,
okay. And I understand that's what people start panicking,
Mhm.
they they look at these situations and God forbid, we have to, because of the situation we're in with this with everything hitting. You don't know. So
But it's just
it's,
not COVID
you
either.
know,
It's, you know, you get
no,
all
it's not
kinds of,
COVID, but
uh,
it's like anything else. It's
stomach
a health.
likes, you
Well,
get like the dysentery and
right.
E.
And it's just like,
coli, there's
coli.
yeah,
hepatitis A.
yeah. And
Yeah, we
then
just need quality control, so.
look, if the health department goes into, Raffaello's or Dominic's Pizza and gives you an A that it's good, they're searching for that. What are you doing to keep this like that? They look at everything. Are you wearing your hats? Or, and so it's the same. But when you got the guys out in the street, I mean, the rules should apply the same way.
It does. And
You know.
the thing is, let me see if I've got it here. There is a, no.
I mean, you guys, look, we don't want to. Everybody
there's a
should make a
flyer
dollar
that,
here and there.
John,
the way they
I
can.
don't know if you've seen the flyer on our website and the email blast from LA County.
From
And it
LA
talks
County, yeah, I
about
did.
Food sanitation, with the street vendors. And it talks about, what you look for. And they have like a grade thing that they're supposed to have too, just like a restaurant,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Right. Yeah, the wagons with the fruit, or the wagons that you see the fruit and they make like these ice, ice drinks, right? With
Right.
orange or lemon and stuff. It's not a thing where, and I'm with Kelly on this. Look, a lot of people, this is the way they make their living. They might have this, they might, and it's a living. And, hey, whatever makes you can do, to make a living, except going out and stealing and, ripping off people with the catalytic converters and stuff,
Right.
that's not a job. So, but
So
what they're trying to do is a job. And I understand that. We just want to make sure that they're safe.
So we're going to move on to back up to fireworks. So some of our stakeholders at the last couple of board meetings, they brought up the fireworks. You've been in Harbor Division for a while, right, Paul?
Yeah, 10 years.
And this area is really bad for the fireworks in the Northwest area. They shoot them out of the park. They shoot them up over off the top of Basin and all this up like catty corner above John's house on the
Oh
hill
my God.
up there. And
Uh-huh.
it's bad. It's in my neighborhood over on Berrywood, over into the neighborhood on Bloomwood and all of that, and the inner streets, Millmark, there are fireworks going off constantly. It's bad over the top of people's houses. Last year they had this big campaign where they said, call it in if you see it, da, da, da. But the problem was I got people to call in. I called in because I saw exactly where some were coming from. And they said, okay, they never sent a car out. I talked to Dan about this and I was fuming because they tell us to tell people to report them and then they do, and they don't do anything. It's like after the fact, they'll investigate it.
Yeah.
And it's
So the only way, since it's kind of hard to catch them in the act, unless you just happen to be around, or they're setting off so many that you could actually catch them, which we have now and then, but it's so overwhelming. You could always, if you'd like, request a private person's arrest against the individual who's setting off the fireworks, since it's a misdemeanor not committed in an officer's presence. You would have to, provide video or pictures identifying the person in the act for it to get filed, so they could get issued a citation there.
okay.
That's just one thought.
A stakeholder brought up too at our last board meeting that allegedly, that supposedly the person is storing fireworks in the Gaffey Street down here on Gaffey and Westmont storage unit. That they're all their fireworks. They've seen them taking them and unloading them down there.
How many fireworks are we talking about?
Lots. That it's a storage unit full of them.
It's the it's the big boys that they're doing, because
Right.
Last few years we've sat outside just to see what, a couple of people do little things, the sparklers with the kids and stuff. But we're sitting there and they're exploding, the the ones from the high school and the parks and everything off the
Right.
ocean. And
Yeah.
you look up and this thing, boom, shakes, cars alarm going off.
Yeah, it looks like professional firework
Yeah,
displays.
well, they
Yeah.
are, because they can buy the mortar. That's what they are. You drop it in, light it, and boom, it goes. And it's like, from me, where I sit here on the cul-de-sac, yeah, I can look over and it looks like it's coming from Noches or Battery, because it's
Yeah.
right there. It just comes right over the top. And, we told the two neighbors down that they got to quit doing it, because they had a couple of this year, they got some. And we told them, you got to stop doing that. I mean, you're talking houses right here.
We're very close to all the houses.
The ashes, I've watched the ashes come down on us.
Yeah.
And, it's still kind of smoldering, Paul. I mean, it's still.
Oh yeah, there's a potential for a fire on a roof.
Yeah,
for sure.
and it's crazy, because if a house goes right now, you know how it is on Gayton and all these houses here, and even by where, Melanie lives and all, they're going to go up in smokes. They're going to go up,
Yeah. I just
and
thought it was odd, because this was brought up last meeting from our Ray Regalato, who is on our board, and he's also a Blanc commissioner. And he brought up the whole firework thing, because he said it's getting out of hand, and he sees it because he lives on Channel. And then when he brought it up, a stakeholder commented that lives over on Westmont. He says, heck, they have a storage unit over there on Gaffey, on Westmont and Gaffey, in that storage unit. He goes, I've seen it because I've been in there. They have a whole huge storage facility, a unit full of fireworks in there. They're storing them.
Can you send me that information? I'd like to reach out to. I guess the first thought is the fire department, and the second one would be our vice unit.
Mhm.
So in the past, we've utilized vice to conduct in the same fashion as they would conduct a sale for narcotics. What they do is get tips from individuals, concerned citizens, on who are selling or storing or setting off these illegal fireworks. And they'll try to buy fireworks from them, and then obviously confiscate them from the seller, and then issue them a citation. So that's one way of addressing it. Again, because of staffing issues, it's probably not going to happen this year. So it's going to be pretty much up to patrol. And there is a Crime Stoppers website. I believe it's on lapdonline.org that you can, and we will follow up with that, just like a radio call, but in an internet link fashion. We'll follow up and see what we could do from the patrol side.
Okay.
But I'll say it's so overwhelming. I believe I talked to one of the vice officers earlier today before this meeting, and he said they got, I believe he said 6 good sales of illegal fireworks, and confiscated a lot of them. But it's
From our area.
From San Pedro. Yeah.
Good.
And it's so overwhelming. By just display of how many fireworks were being set off, it really didn't do much.
Right. Because one of them I know for sure, and too, John, there's guys that live on Basin over here that are notorious for the ones having the fireworks and setting them off. They live on
the other side is over on Taper, because my aunt, who lives on Mount Shasta, right when Bloomwood turns into Mount Shasta, she's right. You just pull up her driveway. She's right there. And she said a lot of times when she would sit outside, or she could see them, she can hear them. They're right above her.
Right over by Taper Elementary, that area. Somebody that lives over on that Taper Elementary, in that little area right in there is where they're coming from.
The big concern, it is a concern that they blow them up and it comes, ashes come down and everything. But where I would feel the concern is that storage unit, how much of that stuff is in there, and, being locked up in there and stuff. I mean, what does it take for that something to ignite one of them and then, all of those going off at one time. You know
Well,
what I'm
they are in
saying?
air-conditioned buildings there. That storage unit is air-conditioned.
No, it is, and I know that, but you know what, Melanie, it's like
I
I
know,
tell
but it's
everybody,
not
there's
okay
always
for
a
it to
first
be there,
time
but
for
I said
something to
that's a
happen.
plus.
Yeah,
Because-
there's always a
Because where
first
my
time.
stuff is now is down on the public storage down at 5 Points over there in that area, Harbor City kind of, over there on PV Drive North, and it's not air conditioned. And so I'm working to get my stuff out of there hopefully, but I'll tell you what, it's better to have air conditioned stuff because that preserves stuff and that will help
Oh, of
preserve
course.
the fireworks being in there. That I feel a little bit better about them being in there, but
Yeah, and the
not
other thing too,
maybe just a
that
little
it's,
bit. I'm just not thrilled that they're using.
no, but the other thing too is there's fire sprinklers that will go off
Oh,
right
what
away.
about
and
the
hopefully-
storage people? Why aren't they checking to see what type of things people are storing?
Well, if they're in boxes, how are they gonna know? I mean, if you've got just a regular, it's a plain box and you have, 40, 50, 60 boxes and you're just unload and put it, they're not gonna question
Yeah,
it.
they aren't gonna
Yeah,
know
we'll
what it
just do
is.
right
That's
for
true.
privacy. But what, couldn't they have dog teams come down there and smell it out? I mean, I worked for customs for years and we would, we'd have dog teams come smell it.
Paul, I
I'd
don't know
have
if
to-
you're,
I'd have to request that from Port PD. They have those type of dogs.
Do
down
they
there.
have dogs
Yeah.
that could sniff out the
oh
fireworks?
yeah, oh yeah,
Any kind of explosive device? Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Gunpowder, the dogs sniff out. I
Easy.
remember, you know, back in Culver City, and I worked in the airport for 35 years. And trust me, they'll find a little firecracker and they'll sniff it out, But like anything else, I mean, like Kelly, I know it was going to answer your question about not, how do they not check or anything. A while back in Culver City, in one of their storage facilities, there were husband and wife living out of it
Oh, wow.
because they don't have a thing in there. So when you close the door, they paid
Hmm.
storage until finally,
That happens a lot more than you think. That's pretty
Wow.
common.
So
Yeah.
what I could do, again, just send me that location and the person who witnessed those
Yeah.
fireworks being stored there. I could just reach out, since I can't go in and randomly search. I could reach out to the owner and have him let him know what's going on, and he could probably conduct an audit of all the storage lockers there, and hopefully come across something. I'm sure you can't. I know that you can't store those type of things in storage. So if he
Right.
conducts an audit, then we could confiscate them and collect them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does he have to do? Go through and open each and every storage unit?
Well, that's up to him. We can't direct him. All we could do is tip him off.
Right.
Once he finds them, then he can call us back and say, "Hey, I have these fireworks here," and then we confiscate them.
Oh, okay.
If we could get an actual unit, that would be a lot easier, and I'm sure they'd be a lot more cooperative, instead
Yeah.
of disrupting a bunch of people's
I don't know
private
that the
storage.
person knows the exact unit.
Hmm.
I have a question. Is this person actually selling out of the storage unit or?
No, just
He just-
storing them there.
Okay.
Well, we don't really know. I mean, I'm sure that if they've got a pretty good supply of it, Jonathan, they got 40, 50 cases of all of this stuff. I'm quite sure they do sell them to make money. I don't think he's going to just
But
shoot.
not right there out of the unit. I think what's
No.
happening.
He'll
bring
put
it
it in the
from
trunk
wherever.
of his car. Yeah, take it to wherever. And then, because, and I'll be honest with you, it costs 100 to almost, 200,000, depending on the show on those mortars and stuff. They're not cheap. It's not like your regular Whistling Pete's and all these other things you get from Red Devil or,
Yeah.
and stuff. That these things are, one ball, it's like $30, $40 for one of those, depending on the size of the flare that it does. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could pay up to, $100 for the,
Yeah.
so it's not cheap. So some of these guys around here, that they've got good money,
Mhm.
they spend a few $1,000s on them, just to have, 5 or 6 or 7 of them go off. They don't, you know.
Heck,
So-
when I was a kid, all the fishermen used to blow out their seal controls.
Oh,
That was the worst fireworks we had in San Pedro, was the seal controls from all the fishermen.
so the next thing is the stop signs. And I know this is an ongoing conversation with all the stop signs being run in Pedro. Westmont and Taper are really bad. Capitol and Berrywood are really bad. All the way up Capitol, people race all the way up Capitol, especially in the evening
Okay.
and late at night. I can watch videos, and during the day too. I mean, I witnessed it a couple of times where people in the crosswalk have almost gotten hit going across to the park and back and forth because people don't stop for the crosswalk. They just keep going through and not even stopping at the sign. And the problem is that what can we do for enforcement? Chris Balnick has got a video that he's been doing of all the different intersections all over Pedro.
Yeah, I've witnessed those, the California rolls, people just at the
There's
least
been
people just
like
rolling
all
through.
over Pedro. People have gotten complacent, I think, and just like matter of fact, where they don't give to, whatever's about following the rules, slowing down, stopping at the stop signs.
I'm finding it really hard because it's happening a lot by schools. I came home tonight and 2 cars ran. I live by Leland, and I came home about 3:30, 3:45, and 2 cars before I got to 21st and Leland. 2 cars ran that stop sign.
Well, it was crazy yesterday. I'm coming
That's
home
school
from
crosswalk.
taking my
Kids are still
mom.
crossing the street.
I'm coming home from taking my mom to the doctors and everything and coming back, and it's about 4 o'clock. And I had to go pick up a script at Ralph's, and I'm coming back down Capitol. And I'm not going fast enough for somebody following behind me. And they literally passed on the right in the bike lane and ran the stop sign and went around me.
What time of day was that?
4 o'clock.
I've noticed a trend. I noticed a trend that
I'm like, when do you pass in the bike lane around somebody on the right-hand side? That's
and was that headed on Capitol towards Gaffey?
It was headed towards Gaffey, towards my house. Yep.
Okay.
What were you saying about a trend?
Right before the intersection.
I've just noticed a trend in the area of that type of reckless driving around. I was going to say around between 3:30 and 4:30, in which a lot of the longshoremen and the casuals are trying to make their way into off of Alameda. So, and they, on my way home from work, when I get off early, they do the same thing. They pass on the left or the right. So that is a trend.
Yeah, I know, like in the mornings, I'll drop my wife off to take the car because I have to be at the Assistance League around 8:15. And I won't wait for that Weymouth light because, 3 cars, 4 cars, and then it changes. So I'll go straight to Biner, make the left, and then a quick left on the first street there, and it curves around and it drops you right there in front of the school. Well, this morning I was the second car behind the guy, people passed and crossed, let some parents. So he got to go. And then I was at the stop sign, and here comes a mom on, if I would have turned, if I'm facing the street to make the left to get onto 7th, there's another little crosswalk there for the parents to bring their kids. Some guy decides to go and make a U-turn. And that poor lady had to stop while he went around her and her 2 kids, and she continued on. And then he went, and I went up, I wanted to get up there to him, but he's already, gone. And, it's like, God, I wish sometimes you could just do something, because you see this, and I go, what does it take for that poor kid to fall or something? And he, and a lot of them, they don't care. I mean, I had a complaint from a neighbor, goes at 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, yeah, my son was trying to, when he was getting home, he couldn't turn off from Capitol, coming down Capitol to make a right on the Myler and then a right on the Gatun. they were doing donuts, and you could see
In
the
middle
next
of the
day.
street. Yeah, they're doing
You could see
donuts
the-
at night.
Yeah, they're doing the donuts right there on Myler and Capitol, and just keep spinning. And the next morning, when I got there, you could see 3, 4, 5 circles.
Hmm.
And he could not get to make the turn because he had to wait for them to.
Yeah, they do it in the middle of
Finish.
Berrywood over here. We'll hear it in the middle of the night and look out and see them doing it in the middle of the night, or they'll go up to Myler, the next intersection at
Yeah.
Myler Capitol, and do it.
What is the protocols for like for it being around schools and stuff? Because that's where I'm noticing a lot of it. Like I'm on 7th, and the cars will come from 9th onto Dotson and come down 7th Street, and we don't have crossing guards right now, and they'll come down that hill.
Right.
And I'm not kidding. They're going 60 miles an hour. We have kids trying to cross the street in the crosswalks. And it's just been by the sheer grace of God that nobody's gotten hurt. And it's happening every day. I mean, when I leave it, and again, like you said, it's funny how 3:30, 4 o'clock is like the witching hour or something, because today to go to my car, I had to wait for like 3 or 4 cars to just speed through the stop sign coming down to get to my car. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think schools need to be patrolled more, obviously, because I live by Leland. I see it a lot. I teach at 7th Street. I see it a lot around the schools. And it's just really become a safety hazard.
Yeah, and Taper Elementary and Westmont there's been accidents. People have been hurt before. The crossing guard even got hit
Oh, wow.
over there.
Well, because they don't stop for the sign. They do a California roll, or they look, okay, none's coming. And then here's the poor crosswalk guy. He's gonna, he's here, he's crossing this way, and they're making their turn, and boom, Yeah, there's a lot of.
Sorry, you're
so the
hearing a big gripe
resources.
session from us. Sorry.
No, I
didn't mean
mean,
for us to be like that.
it's I mean, it's well deserved. I mean, it's a big issue, and you're not the only community members that have had that issue. It's all over the place.
It's
it
all
seems
over
like.
Pedro. It is. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if at any point that LAPD, and that's why I put it on here, if they were going to do some dummy cars or do some task force to be all over Pedro to try and see, to catch some of these people and make a message to the Pedro community that this is not going to be acceptable anymore.
So the chief of police strategy for the upcoming years is to reduce, one of his goals is to reduce the amount of traffic related injuries. What we're trying to do is get more task force to come out, more motor officers in certain areas. I have someone from, do you know who Officer Rowe is? Have you ever talked to him before? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's the one I can reach out to.
I've reached out to him because we have a problem also on Capitol, right in front of Target in there, and in the median in between going each way with semi trucks parking in the median there, waiting for that place next to Johnny's Auto and behind 7-Eleven to open up the next morning. They'll stay there all night and stop, and they'll either idle or they won't, or they park where it says no parking at all in front of Target along there right behind my house, and they'll idle all night. We've had a problem with that. And then when they get in trouble with that and say they can't, I'll get somebody call the cops and they come out and they'll remove them. Then what they do is they sit in front of the park all night and idle, which is not okay either. There's signs about the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. thing up there. What I would like to see put up there is no RV park or no semi-truck parking, period, put up.
Okay. Yeah,
in
that's
that area over by in front of Target, and also because they're abusing it. And what I was trying to get Andy to do was go talk to that trucking company people and tell them they need to tell their people that there's no go. They need to find somebody else where else to stop at night, waiting for them to open.
Right.
Yeah, I got a letter from an email from Christina that some people are complaining that on some of these streets, 9th or first going up to PV, it's a 6,000 pound limit, but you got tractor trailers going up there, and a semi is gonna 15, 18,000 pounds. And she says she'll see 1 or 2 a day go up and down. And
So I actually looked into that. There's been big issues in Wilmington on the northeast side of Wilmington with a bunch of trucks going through residential neighborhoods.
Right. And they're doing that here too, though.
yeah,
And the
Yeah.
focus has been on Wilmington a lot, but they don't realize that it's happening here too. It's happening on Gaffey constantly. It's bad. Channel is going to get tore up by all these trucks, Channel and Gaffey, that whole area.
So the caveat to that, no 6,000 pounds or more truck coming through, is if they're conducting business on that street. They can't use it as a thoroughfare or a shortcut to get somewhere else. But if there's a business on that street, then they actually can use that.
Right.
So for example, if a tow truck is trying to pick up a disabled car on that street, tow truck weighs more than 6,000 pounds and even more with the car on the back, that vehicle is conducting business. So just to throw it out there, the driver would have to prove at the point of a traffic stop that he's actually conducting business at that area, as opposed to just cutting through around traffic.
correct. It's like, let's just say Best Buy. Somebody went and bought washers and dryers, and it's a tractor trailer like that. And if they're going to deliver to the, and I understand that. That's fine. Even if it's
Right.
an 18, 20 footer with a regular, truck cab that, they weigh, and, they have, they're over the 10,000, 12,000 pound limit, but they're delivering something. And, if that's well, you can't. But like you said, if they're going, they're going like, because we get it here. You know how many people come up Gatun and think you can go over to the next street, going up Park Western, then you'll see them, and then they'll make their U-turn, and then, my theory has always been, I guess people can't read or don't see the sign. Let's make it like light up, like the Hollywood lights, and have a, four-way singer going, hey, this is not a true street, So, but it's, it's the old thing. Remember, SHIT happens, and it's going to be out there. And I understand the concerns, because a lot of those roads are not, the people, they are, but a lot of the people, the residents think, well, 6,000 pound limit, our streets are not limit for that. And I got to sit there and tell them, and I go, that's not true. They can take the weight of a semi tractor and all that. They just don't want that much weight all the time, because in over a time, excessive amount of time, that's when stuff starts happening. But it's not going to cave your street in if he goes up and down once, 3-4 times a year, a truck that, they're not, the city's not going to build a street that only withhold 6,000 pounds. At 7,300, boom, she collapses. That's, let's, but some people think that way. They go, well, it's a 6,000 pound street limit, and it, what happens if it caves in? And my theory is always, well, stop watching Bugs Bunny, because, it's not going to happen. But yeah, it's a safety factor mostly for,
exactly. Yeah.
That's what it is. If the sign's not made to tell you that the road's that, it's a safety factor. Only 6,000 pounds limited, because too many cars are parked. It's a residential. You got nowhere to turn anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Hey guys, it's 7 o'clock. I gotta run.
Okay. Yeah. The last thing that we need to cover is, I wanted Paul to mention about what they said at CPAB about the volunteer opportunities.
So the coordinator for volunteers at Harbor Division is Paul Andelon.
Oops. He froze up.
Yeah.
Paul Andelon.
You froze up, Paul.
You froze up, Paul. Is it Paul Andelon, you said?
Paul Andelon, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Paul Andelon, that's Anadalon.
Okay.
And his serial number is going to be 4100 4101.
4101.
It's fun. Then
Okay,
two zeros
read
and
it
a
again.
one.
It's
Now you broke up again, Paul.
41 what?
41001
41001.
at lapd.online.
Okay. Now, for everybody here, the volunteer opportunities, I guess, that are available are for people to go door knocking to try and gather information for LAPD on different incidents with car break-ins and stuff. Right?
Well, there's lots of different volunteer
Right.
opportunities everywhere from.
I'm more for Harbor Lights, thank you. I'm not going and doing investigations. I'll reach
No,
out
no,
to
you
put up
can
stuff.
even. So what he does is he'll take your information, they do a quick background check on you. They'll do an interview to see where you're the best fit. We have
Yeah.
jobs at anywhere from assisting with at the front desk and telephone calls to paperwork. Whoever works out whatever they feel or you feel is the best fit for you.
Right.
Right now, he has about 30 applicants. So
Oh, wow.
if you'd like to not wait a long time, then I'd say submit your application as soon as possible. I believe you could do it on lapdonline.org as well.
Okay. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Paul, thank you so much for coming tonight, and John too. He left. He had to be out of here at 7, I guess. But I really
Yes,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Are you going to be able to come to the neighborhood council meeting on Monday, the
9th.
9th? It's at
Monday
6
the 9th.
p.m. to do a police report.
Oh yeah, I'll be. It looks like I'm gonna be working that day. So yeah.
Okay, so that way, what I'll do is make sure that the agenda and the Zoom link gets sent to you. But usually we have your report like at the beginning of the meeting, so you can do a report so you don't have to stay the whole thing.
Okay.
So basically what they want is like a crime report. A crime.
So kind of like a highlight, like at the CPAB meeting.
Right, basically that,
Okay.
what crime is in our area and how it is, and then field a couple of questions that people may have of things going on.
Yeah,
in the
that's
community.
totally doable.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Paul.
Nice meeting you all.
Yes,
Same here,
thank you.
Paul, and
Nice
I'll
to meet
get
you.
a hold of you, Paul, sometime in the next week.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, let you know about what, Chris was doing with the Assistance League.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of older ladies, 75 and up that work the gift shop and post office, and couple of concerns, but I'll get with you on it and kind of give you some quick highlights of it.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right.
I appreciate
All
it.
right, guys.
Thank
Right.
you.
All right, thank
Have a
you.
good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Take
Good night.
care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Stop
you.
the recording.
Yeah. I gotta stop share there and then stop the recording. Okay, so that ends our meeting, you
It's
guys.
still recording.
Yeah,
It's
I
still
know.
recording.
And our next meeting will be on the 26th of May.
Okay,
Alrighty? Alrighty.
sounds good.
Thanks, you
All
guys.
right, thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Kel.
Bye.
Whoops.